Welcome to your Houston Rewind for August 22nd through the 26th. I'm KHU 11 digital anchor Brandy Smith. You probably didn't have a chance to watch every story we shared this week, so hopefully you can take this opportunity to catch up. Let's rewind. On Monday, our area's two largest school districts and a handful of others went back to school. Here's what the first day looked like at Cy-Fair's Bang Elementary School. The KHU 11 Back to School survey shows safety is a top concern for parents in the wake of Uvalde. Ugochi Aloka introduced us to two parents with two very different ideas about making children and their classrooms safer.
No parent should ever have to worry about bullets flying in their child's classroom.
I have two little ones coming up through the school system as well, and these things happen so quickly.
I would definitely encourage parent groups to come together and start fundraising after they identified all of their school's needs.
Both parents concerned about Uvalde having a repeat in other schools.
This latest shooting in Uvalde was sort of the last straw for me as a parent.
That's why Hardwire LLC CEO George Tunis and Dad of Four supplied 258 schools in the eastern shore of Maryland with his assault rifle bulletproof armor shields.
This shield would hang up on the wall and it can be grabbed, turned on a shooter, and if you look, that top grouping is a full clip from an AR.
If you have to fight, he says, you need the right tool and training.
The shields need to be in the building. People need to understand that they're there just like a fire extinguisher.
Using the shield to hold off an active shooter until help comes.
For me, would make me feel better as a parent that we take individual school assessments and assess their safety, which will in turn help the officers, resource officers, anybody that would respond to any events.
Humble mom of three, Natalie Carter, shares while she applauds companies like Hardwire for offering not only bulletproof shields, but backpack inserts and clipboards, she finds it a bit overwhelming.
I want to still try to normalize my child's school experience by not necessarily putting ballistics in their backpacks or ballistic shields.
However, Tunis wants to expand his reach to Texas schools, citing the shield can be used to keep a threat away.
Bad guys don't attack hardened targets, so armor can be as much of a deterrent.
We don't have to be on the sidelines, afraid, waiting for something to happen when we have the strength within us to actually effectuate change.
Change for her means exploring programs that secure school building parameters.
With our surplus in our government, it wouldn't be a bad thing if Governor Abbott would consider possibly giving the school districts a little bit more funding with regards to helping fund these initiatives.
And more community involvement to apply pressure.
I really would want to encourage everybody to consider the value of their vote.
Two parents with different ideas, both wanting to keep our schools free from another Uvalde tragedy. Ugochi Aloka, KHU 11 News.
Now to a story of hope and healing. Monday, 5-year-old Eliza Knox went to her first day of kindergarten surrounded by a sea of blue. Her father, Houston police officer Jason Knox, died in a helicopter crash. So in his stead, his fellow officers escorted the Knox children to school. Our Sherman Chow, who's known the family for decades, was there too.
Fire trucks, police cars, flashing lights, and scores of officers all here for
Eliza, Cooper, turn sideways. There you go.
an overwhelmed 5-year-old Eliza Knox and her first day of kindergarten. In 2020, Eliza's father, HPD Tactical Flight Officer Jason Knox, was killed in a police helicopter crash. His law enforcement family have stood by wife Kara and their 2 young children.
It's been almost 2.5 years, and here they are, still showing up. So it's amazing.
Including an HPD flyby.
Is Daddy's helicopter going to come?
Yeah.
Big brother Cooper got a big send-off too back in 1st grade. Now 8 years old, he's looking after his little sister.
I get to show her to her classroom and show her where everything is.
Officers and first responders took a class photo with the family, and then a motorcycle escort followed the bus as it pulled into the neighborhood.
It means more than the world to me. Love, support, everything. I don't have enough words.
Houston City Councilman and former HPD officer Mike Knox, also known as Grandpa, was there too, along with other family, to see the siblings onto the bus. The convoy pulled out and headed to school. There, mounted patrol officers waited to greet them. This law enforcement family will likely be back on other big days, like high school graduations. But even now, Eliza knows she is not alone. Sherman Chow, KHOU 11 News.
The countdown to the November election is on, and one of the tightest races appears to be Texas Attorney General. A new poll shows current AG Ken Paxton has a razor-thin lead over Democratic challenger Rochelle Garza. On Monday, Gerald Harris broke down why political experts call this the most winnable race for Democrats in November.
A University of Texas at Tyler poll shows a dead heat in the Attorney General's race. 34% of registered voters polled support current Republican AG Ken Paxton for re-election. 32% support civil rights attorney Rochelle Garza, the Democrat.
But the problem here is that Mr. Paxton is a drag on his own campaign and with Republicans.
In a Ruby Ridge state, KHU 11's political expert Bob Stein says most of the damage happening to Paxton's campaign is a base of Republican voters not wanting to vote for him.
What he's going to need is a bigger disparity in turnout. He needs more Republicans to vote than Democrats.
Marred by an FBI investigation into criminal conduct and indictments, polling shows Republican voters may be looking at additional options besides Paxton, with Libertarian Mark Ashe picking up 8% support.
I'd say if there's an upset, he's clearly the candidate that the Democrats can upset. Ms. Garza, I think, would be well positioned to simply talk about Paxton's weaknesses.
And as Ken Paxton lines up for a fundraiser with former President Donald Trump, Republican strategists say Paxton will maintain his lead.
He has proven time and time again that when it comes down to it, he's willing to stand in that breach. He's willing to file lawsuits against government overreach.
Democrats say they see an opening in a possible weakened candidate.
This man's been indicted for countless number of years. We've seen no action in it, and he continually leads Texas in these frivolous lawsuits against the government.
Right now, Paxton has about a 40% approval rating and has a money advantage over Garza. You can read more about both candidates on KHOU.com. Just look for this article. Tuesday night, people who live in a Waller County subdivision that floods just about every time it rains got answers about what can be done about it. KHOU 11 first highlighted the issue at the new Lake House community near Katy in Waller County on Monday. Lauren Tallarico went to the community meeting.
So this is a story so many in Greater Houston can relate to, as we all know the power of water. Until recently, this community had no problem when it rained, but thanks to construction on the one road in and out, that's changed. Tonight, residents came out hoping to hear a solution to a problem they just realized they had.
This is bad business practice.
Media wasn't allowed in, but resident Brian Parks left with even more questions. The Lake House subdivision is off Clay and Pitts roads. Clay used to be 2 lanes and will soon be 4, under construction to keep up with recent development. But the new road is lower than the old one, and last week, when it rained, it flooded, and cars and even school buses couldn't get in or out of the neighborhood.
One issue is that the road is not complete.
Waller County Precinct 3 Commissioner Kendrick Jones says Clay Road shouldn't flood once complete, but that could take a few months. Tonight, he, along with engineers, met with worried residents to go over short-term solutions, like bringing in a pump to get rid of water and putting stakes along the road so drivers would see it.
That way, this community could feel safe and feel protected and feel like if an emergency was to happen, that they can get in and out of their home.
But Parks isn't convinced the road won't flood when it's done.
The contractors who are building this road, like they're hands off up into the county line. They don't care what's happening beyond that.
Part of the challenge, the subdivision butts up to Harris County, with that side higher than the Waller County side. Parks wonders where the water is expected to go. But Commissioner Jones says Harris County is already committed to help find a solution if needed. In Waller County, I'm Lauren Tallarico, KHOU 11 News.
Tuesday night's Astros game had a very special guest. 10-year-old Maya Zamora threw out the first pitch. She and her family were invited to the game, where they got to meet some of the Astros players, including Jose Altuve. Earlier, she and her family were treated to a makeover and then given personalized Astros jerseys from Mattress Mac. Maya was the last young Uvalde victim to be released from the hospital after 66 days and 20 surgeries. When she was released, she didn't want to go home because the shooter's house was just a couple blocks away. So the Correa Family Foundation stepped up to give Maya's family a new home.
It was tough when it happened. It hit us hard at home. And I texted Ricky right away and I said, we gotta figure out ways to help these kids. And he happened to get in contact with Maya and her family, and we're here for her and her family for whatever they need.
Amazing. And so is how a childhood dream came true for one Texan. Daniel Gutera caught up with a local player on the local team.
The Houston area is a haven for football talent. We all know this. It's been so throughout the years, and the Texans have definitely dipped into that talent to compile this roster of theirs. This week, we talked to one of those guys, Cy-Fair High School product Austin Deculus. Big man on the offensive line. He compares himself to a certain comic book character.
Feel the power.
While he's trying to make his way here in the NFL.
Oh, you see the flow. I mean, you see the hair, you see everything. That's where it comes from. That and Aquaman, I'm a hybrid.
A self-proclaimed movie critic, Deculus had his welcome to the NFL moment off the field.
Welcome to the NFL moment was just the playbook. During rookie minicamp, you get 3-4 installs in college, and that's equivalent to one in the NFL. So.
Helped by vets, though, along the line through camp, the big man sometimes can't believe this is all real.
Offensive lineman with the Houston Texans. How's that still sound to you?
I mean, it sounds like a dream because I'm still living the dream. I'm still trying to make the best out of this opportunity that God gifted me with.
With the Texans, Daniel Gutera, KHOU 11 Sports.
Approaching the 5-year anniversary of Hurricane Harvey's landfall, we wanted to share an update about a little girl who made it her mission to help kids who lost everything. As Janelle Bluda showed us, 5 years later, she's still at it.
We have all our stuffed animals.
Walking me through her warehouse, yes, warehouse of wonders.
And more Barbie dolls.
13-year-old Lily DeBow still can't believe her eyes.
And we have these Legos. It's crazy to me how much this has grown.
Grown in more ways than one.
Then I saw kids on TV, not having toys. And then I was like, oh my gosh, I need help, doing this.
This was Lily 5 years ago, only 8 years old.
Oh, here's another ball.
Handing out the toys she collected for her community right before Christmas.
And giving to kids that lost their toys.
A community who lost everything in Hurricane Harvey.
I was in my closet with my mom, and we were watching the news and seeing all these kids leaving their homes and just leaving everything behind, and I knew that I could give my own toys away.
So when she came to me and said, I want to donate my toys, I thought, what a great way to get rid of clutter.
What started out as a small gesture.
It's like a Lego set.
Soon became Lily's Toy Box, her very own nonprofit.
We like to help kids that are going through difficult situations.
Which today has collected over $70,000.
I've given over 31,000 toys.
An operation that's moved from their living room to this warehouse.
It's just crazy how many we have got from Hurricane Harvey and how much people have donated and how wonderful a community we have.
All because one little girl,
get my finger out and then pull it down,
wanted to share her toys.
I want to grow it as much as I can. I want to get more toys, and I just want to give it to more people and everywhere.
Oh, Lily, you liked this toy when you were little.
In Houston, Janelle Bluda, KHOU 11 News.
Wednesday, local law enforcement agencies recovered hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stolen catalytic converters. Brittany Ford shared why investigators think that cat stash is tied to an organized crime ring.
Law enforcement wheeling out barrels of catalytic converters.
Yeah, I'm just trying to figure out what's going on.
Is what had people in this Pearland subdivision talking.
I had no idea that something like that was going on.
While others say they had their suspicions.
And you could see that they were moving stuff from the garage. Either they stored it in the garage first and then they send it out.
Search warrants targeting 3 homes and 3 commercial properties, including this warehouse in Fresno, led officers to recover 17 pallets of catalytic converters.
When you see that many catalytic converters sitting on the garage, right there on the side of the yard, I was like, oh, that's what makes sense.
One of those warrants at this home off Pepper Creek Lane, where officers arrested 3 men and 2 women, a part of an organized crime ring. The arrests follow another large-scale converter bust in North Harris County last month. Neighbors praising the efforts of law enforcement, but never thought it would happen so close to home.
Again, it's for this neighborhood. I thought it was wow. I wouldn't have suspected from my neighbor, that they would actually be dealing with stolen, product here, right here in Pearland.
The 5 people arrested are charged with engaging in organized criminal activity. That is a felony. President Biden announced on Wednesday his plan to wipe out some college debt. Tiffany Craig broke down how it will work.
The uncertainty is over. Millions of Americans will have thousands of dollars of student loan debt forgiven, like Dara Zucker.
I'd like to see the $10,000 go away.
Dara borrowed $40,000 to get her degree. She's been making payments since graduation, but with the interest, she's barely chipping away.
I think it is predatory of colleges and schools to go after kids who may not have ever had any understanding of how finances work.
Here's the student loan debt plan. Up to $20,000 in loans forgiven if you went to college on Pell Grants. Up to $10,000 off your student loan if you didn't get a Pell Grant. Now, all of this only applies if you earn less than $125,000 a year. And if you have undergraduate loans, you can cap your repayment at 5% of your monthly income.
So completely erasing student loan debt is going to be very costly.
Kristen Myers is with personal finance website The Balance. She says there are concerns this will contribute to inflation. Then there's the fairness factor for those who paid off their loans. And this plan, it doesn't address the root problem.
This policy, it is really still a Band-Aid. A lot needs to be done in terms of making college far more affordable, but it is starting to hammer away at the fact that, frankly, this is an unaffordable position that I think a lot of Americans feel that they are forced into.
If you don't qualify for the debt plan, here's something for you. The pause on student loan payments started by President Trump has been extended one last time until December 31st.
This article on KHU.com will help you figure out if and how you qualify for President Biden's plan. We've talked about the idea of the Ike Dike for a decade now, but here's a sign it's getting closer to reality. On Wednesday, Senator Ted Cruz visited possible construction sites in Galveston. Adam Bennett revealed the one key step before work can start and what lawmakers say they'll do to speed up the process.
5 years ago tomorrow, Hurricane Harvey made landfall. 2 years ago, the mayor here in Galveston ordered a mandatory evacuation as Hurricane Laura was approaching. Lawmakers say you never know when the next storm could hit, which is why they say they want to get this project built as quickly as possible.
At the end of Seawall Boulevard in Galveston, it's a potential new site to protect not just the island from future hurricanes, but the larger Gulf Coast region. Senator Ted Cruz, Congressman Randy Weber, and State Rep Mays Middleton visited 2 potential construction sites for the Ike Dike today.
So it's 5 times Houston Ship Channel.
The 70-mile-long coastal barrier was first proposed after Hurricane Ike's 22-foot storm surge devastated coastal communities. The project is designed to protect human lives and the largest petrochemical complex in the U.S.
When the refinery shut down for a skeleton crew during Hurricane Ike, gasoline in Ohio spiked 60 cents a gallon. What we do here has a massive impact.
Once the House and Senate reconcile their versions of the bill, President Joe Biden will then need to sign it into law. Construction is expected to take around 20 years.
And it will depend upon the appropriation battles. I can tell you on Congress, it's my intention to continue leading the fight because I think this is a plan that is prudent, is fiscally responsible, saves lives, and protects jobs.
65% of the money to build the Ike Dike will come from the federal government. State lawmakers created the Gulf Coast Protection District to come up with the rest.
Now the nitty-gritty is actually designing the true parts of that system, and we're just entering that phase now.
The area's congressman hopes to have the final reconciled bill on President Biden's desk within the next couple of months. Once built, officials say the Ike Dike could last between 80 to 100 years.
For more background on the project, its price tag, and the efforts to get the Ike Dike built, check out this article on KHOU.com. Thursday marked 5 years since Hurricane Harvey made landfall in Texas, an anniversary many of us would rather forget. but the storm's impact on Houston remains visible. Jason Miles showed us why local leaders say we're in better shape now because of Harvey.
5 years to the day since Harvey hit Texas, scars of its wrath remain in places like 1945 Allen Parkway, where rising floodwaters irreparably swamped KHOU's home of nearly 60 years.
We had friends that actually came and rescued us in a canoe.
In Meyerland, Michelle Comstock's memories are triggered every time she takes a walk, seeing homes that have been renovated, raised, or completely torn down.
I think that there's obviously a point where the homeowners and the families go, we're not going to put our families through this anymore.
She and her family moved in just 60 days before Harvey hit into a home that had never flooded before. This is some of what they saw inside. She's convinced the widening of nearby Brays Bayou, which includes numerous bridge replacements and sewerage improvements, is already making a difference.
We're definitely seeing the drainage working.
Every storm event, we learn more.
Harris County Precinct 3 Commissioner Tom Ramsey is also a civil engineer and credits a multi-billion-dollar bond package approved in the wake of Harvey with better preparing us for the next storm.
Fewer people would be impacted.
Using the hashtag Since Harvey, the Harris County Flood Control District is sharing updates on some 181 projects, from bayou expansions to new detention basins and desilting of reservoirs.
So when we look at the scorecard today, 5 years later, every project has begun. It's in various stages of design. Some construction has been completed.
All while many personal recovery efforts continue to this day.
5 years on, some homes and businesses are virtually untouched since Harvey, beyond being mucked out. Thousands of others have been demolished through buyout programs. Since August 2017, KHU 11 told the stories of the families affected, the heroes who stepped up, what's changed, what we've learned, and yes, even the good to come out of that monster storm. We cover it all in Harvey 5 years later, a 30-minute special you can watch now on our YouTube channel or our free KHU 11 apps for Fire TV and Roku. The Texas trigger law went into effect on Thursday, upping the penalty for performing an abortion. So anyone doing so or providing medication knowing it will be used for an abortion will face life in prison and a $100,000 fine. There are exceptions if it would save the mother's life, if the pregnancy is ectopic, or if a miscarriage has already happened. This means women choosing to have an abortion have to travel to states where it's legal. Janelle Bluda spent the day at a medical clinic in Albuquerque, New Mexico, where she met 3 generations of Texas women who came for help. At their request, we're shielding their identity to protect their privacy.
It's a pull for me because I believe in Jesus Christ, and I believe in life, and I believe in death. There's a thin line between what is feasible and what's not feasible.
This Texas grandmother is in New Mexico, where women are now traveling to obtain an abortion.
I hope what we're doing is right.
On the exam table, her granddaughter.
I'm scared, but I know it's going to be worth it at the end of the day because I have a life ahead of me.
I would have loved to take that grandbaby and raise his or her, but I can't. I'm not physically able to. So I just want people to understand abortion is not lightly taken.
It's taken 4 months for Ashley to get here.
I had to get a babysitter to watch my son, take off work, save up money for this. It just puts a whole pause on my life.
She is 19 and lives in Dallas.
I have already another kid to worry about, and I just want to live my life, make sure my son that I have now is okay before I think about having any more.
Her mom is waiting with her.
So she knew what she wanted to do until whether I don't believe in it or I don't, it's not my choice. I do whatever you want, it's your life, you know?
They were in the process of getting the abortion in Texas when the Supreme Court decision took that away.
We literally called, I think, every state. This was the only state that did it. And so then you have to switch gears and be like, okay, so now you have to not just pay for a procedure, but you have to pay for gas, which is high. You have to take off time off work.
All the rooms are ready. At the UNM Center for Reproductive Health, since Texas's Senate Bill 8 took effect last September, their abortion care has escalated.
We saw an increase about 165%
of patients.
Dr. Lisa Hoffler says before SB 8, their wait times for appointments were 24 to 48 hours. Today, after the Supreme Court decision, they're scheduling 5 to 6 weeks out.
Abortion is really time-sensitive care, right? Like every delay pushes someone farther into their pregnancy.
Wrapped in a blanket across the hall,
I feel nervous, but I just want to get over with.
Kate is also waiting for her abortion. She's 6 weeks pregnant.
Then when I called clinics in Albuquerque, they were like, well, we don't have availability to the end of August.
She got lucky with the cancellation and flew out from San Antonio immediately.
Then I called my mom and I was like, we just need to fly. So then I had to buy plane tickets for her and for me, and then I had to book a hotel.
Caring for women like Kate and Ashley is why Dr. Hoffler says they're expanding to accommodate the new demand for abortion, but hopes this new reality doesn't last.
People shouldn't have to travel for this care, right? This is essential health care, and people should be able to get it at home.
Both Ashley and Kate are heading back home as soon as possible.
I don't want God to punish me at the end of the day, but I don't think he will, because he knows that I'm just not right in life to take care of another kid right now.
Saying having to cross state lines,
it was unnecessary, it is ridiculous, and it's a lot,
didn't change their minds.
Because I know it's hard for her, and it's hard for her mother, and it's hard for me.
We pulled the numbers from Louisiana, Oklahoma, and Colorado, and all show increases in Texas women traveling there last year for an abortion after Senate Bill 8 went into effect. In Oklahoma, abortions for Texas patients nearly quadrupled from 341 in 2020 to 1,327 in 2021. In Louisiana, they nearly doubled. The same happened in Colorado. The trigger law could make medication commonly prescribed for arthritis and cancer harder to get. That drug's tangled up in the abortion battle. Tiffany Craig introduced us to some patients caught in the middle.
Nora Wise has been living with a rare autoimmune disease that causes inflammation in her bones. For a while, her mom says there was no relief.
We're doing therapies and everything we could, but her pain kept increasing, and she would be crying all night long.
The 10-year-old says the worst pain was in her lungs.
It felt like I didn't want to breathe. It just felt like needles.
But life changed, her mom says, after a doctor prescribed methotrexate.
It took about 2 weeks, and she said she wasn't in pain anymore.
Methotrexate slows the body's immune system and reduces inflammation. It's commonly used to treat rheumatoid arthritis and some cancers, but can also be used to terminate non-viable ectopic pregnancies, where a fertilized egg grows outside the womb. Since the Supreme Court decision that overturned Roe v. Wade, some women report trouble getting the medication by pharmacists concerned they could be held responsible for aiding an abortion.
As soon as I started hearing about women in other states having this issue, I started asking the question, is this going to be a problem?
Annie England Noblin is a long-term user of methotrexate for rheumatoid arthritis, but says a pharmacy recently put her refill on hold.
They needed to make sure that my rheumatologist actually prescribed me methotrexate for my RA, and not so that I could, abort a fetus.
Noblin lives in Missouri, a state banning almost all abortions.
It was immediate anger. I was embarrassed because I was in a pharmacy line. And I said, okay, do you also need to know the first date of my last period as well?
John Thopel is an Austin-based OBGYN. He prescribed methotrexate about 10 times in the last year to end non-viable pregnancies and worries about potential delays in patients getting it.
This is a wild world of concern because people are individually interpreting laws, and women are definitely going to get hurt.
For Nora Wise, the medication is a game changer she wants to keep taking.
I know the medicine works. I don't have any more pain. It's just I hope that I'll have my medicine.
So how are pharmacies handling prescribing these drugs? Last month, CVS Health started asking pharmacists in some states, including Texas, to verify that certain prescriptions they provide will not be used to end a pregnancy. We reached out to a few other pharmacies with the same question, and you can read their responses online at khou.com. On Friday, we shared tips for drivers looking to protect their cars and trucks from catalytic converter thieves. Just this week, we reported on that second theft ring tied to the murder of Harris County Deputy Darren Almendarez. He was shot and killed while trying to stop 3 men from stealing the catalytic converter off his truck. Ugochi Aloka offers a spendy but possibly worth it way to curb thieves.
With catalytic converter theft on the rise in Houston, some drivers are turning to anti-theft shields like this to protect their cars.
They've actually been in high demand, the catalytic converter covers. Unfortunately, we've been seeing a high amount of theft in the area and just overall. So, people are trying to avoid that at all costs.
Even though catalytic converter shields will cost you about $200 to $500, it's a lot cheaper than getting a stolen catalytic converter replaced, which could run you up to $2 grand.
Having a product like this, a catalytic converter cover, will not only give you peace of mind, a lot more ease, it will just all in all really protect your investment in your vehicle.
Discount Hitch and Truck Accessories North Houston has seen an increase in Shield sales from customers who don't want their car targeted next. If I'm a thief, I'm going to look. What does that process look like? Is it just harder to pull off and they just don't want to deal with it?
Well, yeah, they're not going to want to deal with it. What they're going to do is they're probably going to want to go to another vehicle where the catalytic converter is exposed. It can be a lot easier for them to get in and out.
The metal plate is installed underneath vehicles to slow down or even stop thieves in the act. These thefts are happening so often, manufacturers are having a tough time replacing them, leaving drivers wishing they protected their cars when they had the chance.
We may not need it, it may not be necessary, but you don't really know until it happens to you. And then when it happens to you, that's when it's too late.
Right now on KHOU.com, we have more details on the shield and tips to prevent catalytic converter theft. I got a chance to chat with a NASA expert on Friday ahead of a big Monday milestone. For the first time in 50 years, NASA is heading back to the moon. The uncrewed Artemis 1 mission is scheduled to launch on Monday morning, beginning a 42-day journey around the moon.
There's a great buzz around here at the Johnson Space Center.
Because this rocket, now staged at Kennedy Space Center, is scheduled to launch Monday. And when it does, Mission Control here in Houston will manage the 42-day Artemis 1 mission.
We've done a lot of testing on the ground ahead of time. You test all the systems, but as an integrated vehicle, this is the first time to fly it.
Fly it roughly 40,000 miles to the far side of the moon and back, farther than any space vehicle has ever carried humans. Still just a stepping stone toward the final destination.
The moon is about 240,000 miles away, but it's significantly closer to Mars.
So the moon can be kind of a base camp.
We're really expanding the frontier of human exploration out to the moon, and then doing that scouting mission out to Mars too in the future, where we look to then eventually expand beyond that as well.
Like so many at NASA, Fuller hopes Artemis, like Apollo did, will ignite a curiosity about space.
We as a human species, we've always been exploring what's over the next hill, what's over the next mountain, what's west of the Mississippi River. All that exploration, we're just doing that now off of the Earth.
If you go to KHOU.com/space, you can watch my full interview with Sean Fuller and read more about the Artemis program. Hope that helped you catch up on this past week and that you are ready for the next one. Remember, you can tune into KHOU 11 on air, online via KHOU.com and YouTube, as well as by using our KHOU 11 Plus app on Roku and Fire TV. Have a great week.